In a day and age where the sports media landscape is overloaded with fake tabloids and hot takes designed just for clicks, one show cuts through the chaos with pure, unfiltered honesty. From the End to the Bench Network, this is Givin Takes. Every week we go beyond the hype to explore the sports world, tackling the most relevant topics on the board while grinding through our starting nine. So, sit back, relax, and get ready for some real perspectives. Now, here's your host, Nate Miller.
Hello, sports fans! Welcome back. My name is Nate Miller, and this is Givin Takes, the online sports show where every single week I sit down with you lovely sports fans, not sports fans, sports fans. We talk about sports. Today is a fun episode. Today, just 3.5 hours ago now, it's 6 p.m. Eastern, was the trade deadline in the MLB. A lot of crazy stuff happened. I'm going to run you through everything that happened. Some things that didn't happen that I thought would happen, who were winners and losers at the deadline. 1 through 9 today, it's all about baseball. This is a huge baseball episode. I think it's the first time on this show all 9 topics have been related to the same sport. So that's kind of fun. And it helps out that it is my favorite sport. So I'm excited to get into this one. There's a lot of you in here already excited for me to get started as well. Lots of crazy stuff that has happened today. So I'm going to just make that didn't end up getting made. There were a few in there. There were some things that I thought were going to happen that just completely didn't. That kind of surprised me. So I'm going to go through those. Then in the 5 spot, I got 3 winners and 3 losers for you at the deadline with some honorable mentions sprinkled in there. And then in the 6th spot, all 5 of those first topics are deadline related. Then we get out of the deadline talk in the 6th spot, talking about next year. Will we have a 2027 MLB season? Like, if you've been around baseball, you've probably heard about this impending lockout, and there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of reasons as to why there's going to be this potential lockout. So I'm going to break those down for you, give you my 2 cents on all those. And then in the 7th spot, as always, the tried and true State of the Union. We're going to be talking about the St. Louis Cardinals this week, a team that went from looking like they were going to be buyers and go all in and be either a 4 or 5 seed in the wild card, is kind of fallen off the face of the earth. And I want to talk about how they got there and why I didn't love their deadline either. And then the 8th spot, also always there for you. It's the 3 studs of the week. I got 3 people in Major League Baseball this week that I want to highlight for good performances, whether it be single game or a week-long stretch. And then in the 9th spot, as I always do at the beginning of the month, this is the 4th installment of it. It is the July Awards. I've done it in April, May, and June so far. And now that we have finally turned that calendar over to the wonderful month of August, we're going to be recapping July and MLB and talking about who the standouts were. And then closing out our episode, as always, it is the top 10. What is the topic of the top 10? Well, I don't tell you up top, because if you want to know that, you're going to have to sit back, relax, and listen to me talk about sports for about an hour and change. So if you're down for that, buckle up. I hope you like baseball, because as you just saw, this episode is chock full of it. And we're going to hit the ground running here by starting off with the leadoff topic, which is revisiting my trade predictions. So this is a pretty quick one. A lot of these aren't going to necessarily be me giving like new insight. A lot of this is going to just be recapping things that have already happened, like these trade predictions and the big moves. So the first part of this episode is kind of just catching everyone up, getting everyone on the same page as to what happened at this deadline, and then getting a little more in-depth to it and breaking down the specifics once we get to the 3rd topic and beyond. So I'm going to take a little drink of water first and start things off. So my first prediction was I thought Mason Miller or Luke Weaver was going to be traded to the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I was correct. That's a point for me. 1 for 1 so far. Luke Weaver was traded to the Pirates earlier today. The Pirates got their reliever that they so desperately needed. in the bull. I can't even just say the back end of the bullpen because it's the whole bullpen that needed help. They got their guy. That's a point for me. My second prediction is by the title, you're going to be able to know that this one is wrong. I thought Tarik Skubal was going to go to the Brewers. He obviously went to the Dodgers, which I will break down more later. But I just thought Brewers, #1 farm system in the league, had a lot more to give, I thought, than the Dodgers. And they had some better prospects like Jesus Made to give up. But I guess the Brewers didn't make a good enough package to rival Zaire Hope. I'll get into that more later. But 1 for 2 now with that. My third prediction was that Luis Arias would go to the Rays. I was wrong on that one again. Luis Arias did get dealt, but it was to the Philadelphia Phillies, my man David Waitman's team, who I host Hitting for the Cycle with. He, alongside Ben Cruz and Ryan Toohey, check us out Thursday nights, 8:30 p.m. every week. It's a great show. This week's episode is going to be a lot of fun, too, post-deadline. So, low plug, make sure you tune into that. But, yeah, David's Phillies, they got Luis Arias. I was sure that the Rays were going to try to beef up that middle infield a little bit. They really didn't. So I am now 1 for 3. But it gets better. My fourth prediction was I had Kevin Gausman going to the Cubs, and to the Cubs he went. That's another point for me. Yesterday, Kevin Gausman was traded to the Chicago Cubs. He is leaving Toronto, and that's great for Cubs fans, but even better for me because it makes me look smart and gets me my second point of my predictions being correct. My fifth prediction was that the Mets were going to sell 4 or more players that were on their opening day roster, and boy, oh boy, was that one right, too. That's another point on the board for me. They sold A.J. Minter, Luke Weaver, Freddie Peralta, Huascar Brazoban, Clay Holmes, Tyrone Taylor, and I'm pretty sure there were more guys in there, but so the list wasn't a mile and a half long. I only included those names in those big trades. So that's another point for me that the Mets fire sale did happen. And my final prediction was that highly sought-after catching prospect Hunter Goodman was going to stay a Colorado Rocky and not get dealt at this deadline. And I was absolutely correct. I had faith in the Rockies to hang on to their young star and try to build around him, and they did exactly that. He was not moved at the deadline, although the Rockies did make some other moves, which I feel they did need to make because you don't want to do absolutely nothing when you're bad. I mean, sell some of your higher end players to get something in return. But in terms of like Hunter Goodman and Jake McCarthy, the Cole Carrig, they kept those guys, and I really like that. And they'll have a fun prospect coming up soon too with Charlie Condon. So I think it's looking up for the Rockies in this young core. But overall, for my trade predictions, I went 4 and 2. Weaver did go to the Pirates. Gausman went to the Cubs. Mets sold, and Hunter Goodman stayed a Rocky. And then the only 2 that I misfired on were Tarik Skubal did not go to the Brewers, and Luis Arias did not go to the Rays. So all in all, I think I had a pretty good grasp on what was going to happen during the trade deadline as the big headlines go. But in terms of talking about everything that's happened in the trade deadline, I'm not even going to lead into it too much anymore. We're just going to get going, and I'm going to tell you all the big moves that happened. Now, this is not going to encompass the moves that were like minor league for minor leaguer deal, like not like some of the lower end MLB players. Like some of those trades might have slipped through the cracks in terms of me trying to scour everything I could find in terms of what MLB trades got made. So there's a couple on little moves on here you might not see, but if the move was anywhere near like a decently big name that you might have heard in the MLB or something that actually helps the team out in a legit area of need that's contending, it is on this list. As I said, there's 41 trades I have to go through. So I'll give a couple thoughts, like I said, here and there, if I think of something on the fly. But for most of this, I'm just going to be going through and reading off this list. So forgive me if this gets mundane, but everyone needs to know what happened here and what was one of the more jam-packed, crazier trade deadlines that I remember in recent memory. So first off, A.J. Minter went to the Twins. Dean Kramer went to the Twins. Bo Naylor and Cody Hewer went to the Brewers, and in return, Craig Yoho and Blake Perkins went to the Guardians. The Yankees traded Camilo Doval to the Pirates. Lane Thomas and Brady Falter head over to Atlanta for the Braves. The White Sox and Mariners do a swap. Luis Castillo goes to the White Sox, and Sir Anthony Dominguez goes to the Mariners. Freddie Peralta gets dealt to the Rays. The Yankees pick up Luis Garcia Jr. As I said earlier, Kevin Gausman goes to the Cubs. Huascar Brazoban goes to the White Sox. Jose Soriano, goes to the Blue Jays. Brooks Raley goes to the Phillies. Brent Suter goes to the Braves. Joe Adell goes to the Guardians. Taylor Ward goes to the Mariners. Brenton Doyle heads to the White Sox. Liam Hicks gets traded to the Rays. Chris Bubic is picked up by the Dodgers. Robbie Ray gets traded to the San Diego Padres. As I also mentioned earlier, Luke Weaver goes to the Pirates. Tarik Skubal goes to the Dodgers. And Luis Arias goes to the Phillies. This one was the most surprising trade, in my opinion, that I'm about to list, just because I was pretty sure this guy wasn't going to get dealt. I'm surprised he did. Adley Rutschman going to the White Sox. That one caught me off guard. I did not expect that to happen. I think that's a great pickup for a White Sox, getting a guy that maybe a lot of people didn't even know was on the market like that. I mean, I surely didn't. I thought you would have had to give up a lot to get him, and it was a pretty good deal for both sides. So I think that's a really good pickup for the Red Sox. Dustin May goes from the Cardinals to the Brewers, stays in that division. Lake Bakar joins the Pittsburgh Pirates bullpen. Jojo Romero heads to the Brewers. Ryan Zephyrdon, I believe that's how you pronounce it, Zephyrdon goes to the Chicago Cubs. Dalton Varsho heads to the Houston Astros. It's actually kind of funny. The Blue Jays play the Astros tonight. So he was already in the right place, just has to switch which dugout he's sitting in. There were cool videos of him like hugging his teammates before the game and everything. It's always got to be pretty convenient when you get traded to a team that you're currently playing. Got to help out with travel a lot. But as we continue down this list, Clay Holmes and Tyrone Taylor get moved from the Mets to the Cubs. Tyler Wells goes to the Rays. Heliot Ramos goes to the Yankees. Antonio Senzatella goes to the Brewers. Marcelo Mayer, surprisingly, I didn't have his name as someone that the Red Sox were willing to trade. He was 4th overall draft pick in 2021, so I'm surprised he was getting moved. I wasn't too keen on his numbers, but nonetheless still surprised me that he's going to the San Francisco Giants for left-handed pitcher Eric Miller. Eric Miller is the one heading to the Red Sox. Then we got Joey Bart, started the year with the Pirates, moved over, was traded to the Braves, and then was traded again at this deadline to the Chicago White Sox. Coming up on these last few here, Foster Griffin makes the move to Cleveland. He heads to the Guardians. Jeff Hoffman goes to the Twins. Lars Nootbaar is picked up by the Diamondbacks. Nathaniel Lau, he heads to the Cleveland Guardians as well. They've had a very busy deadline. Casey Mize goes to the Padres. A nice little starting pitcher pickup that I didn't expect the Padres to make after they got Robbie Ray. They're really going in on bolstering that rotation. I like that move. Casey Mize to the Padres. And then last two are Kirby Yates to the Pittsburgh Pirates, another reliever that they added to completely revamp and bolster that bullpen. And then finally, Eli White is a Boston Red Sox. Whew! All right, so I know that was a lot. That was a lot of names and a lot of teams just thrown at you very quickly. Some of my favorites in here, I'll just go through real quick. I love Adley to the Red Sox. I love Luke Weaver to the Pirates. I am interested in Marcelo Mayer to the Giants. I think he could still be a pretty solid player in this league, so I'm interested to see if the Red Sox are going to regret letting him go for Eric Miller. Kirby Yates to the Pirates, another bullpen move, him alongside Lake Bakar. They interest me. I wasn't too keyed in on us potentially picking up those relievers. At Camilo Doval, there were 4 Pirates relievers picked up. I didn't know too much about Bakar or Yates, so I haven't had time to look into their numbers too much because of prepping for this episode throughout the course of this day. But I hope they're solid. I just didn't have their names on my radar. Guardians made some really nice moves all around the board. I like that they picked up Joe Adell. They picked up Craig Yoho and Blake Perkins. They picked up Foster Griffin. I mean, they were all over the place today. I think they made some very good moves. Luis Arias to the Phillies is a bit interesting to me. I think there were better fits. I mean, I know Phillies can use all the bats they can get. but I just didn't think with how kind of set they were positionally that they were going to go after a second baseman. Just kind of caught me off guard. We got a comment here from our resident Padres fan too, Callum McClure. He loves what the Padres were able to do today, despite some of the hurdles from the new ownership not being in place yet. To financial handcuffs from the old regime to the depleted farm system. It was very interesting. Also got a shout out from my boy Ben Cruz. He's saying what up. He's saying my Pirates did well with relievers today. I appreciate it. You made what I think was one of the best trades of the deadline in picking up Adley Rutschman. I think that's going to help out a lot. But a lot of good stuff going on with this trade deadline. I'll break down a lot more of the specifics in our fourth and fifth topic of things that I liked the teams did, things that I didn't like. But in terms of those 41 trades, that is the bulk of the moves that you need to know about if you want to be in the know as to what happened today. So I got you caught up. I got you covered if you were paying attention. There will be a test at the end of the episode, so I hope you paid attention and took notes on who went where. But before we get to that, we're going to be loading up our third topic. Tarik Skubal is a Dodger. This broke my heart when I saw this, man. I really thought that there were so many other, 28 other teams could have, 28 other teams got good prospects. I mean, like I said at the top, everyone knew this was coming. No one outside of Los Angeles wanted it to happen. I still think the Brewers could have made a better deal than the Dodgers if they truly wanted Skubal and to go all in to win a World Series. Because, I mean, my God, you've never won a World Series. You have a chance to go out and get Tarik Skubal and Jacob Mizorowski in the same rotation, and you just don't give up enough to do it. There's something to be said about caring about your future and all these young guys, but you have never won a World Series. There's something at some point you got to forego a little bit of the future and focus on right now. We want to win a World Series for the first time. They're a team that's always pretty solid, top of the division, in the playoffs, going on decent runs, but never able to bring home the big trophy. So I was a little bit surprised at the trepidation that the Brewers had with giving up their big names because all the Dodgers gave up was Zaire Hope, the outfielder, and right-handed pitchers River Ryan and Brady Smith. I don't love that return for the Tigers outside of Zaire Hope, honestly. I mean, it literally makes me wonder if the Brewers even made Jesus Mate available, because I would have, for this package, you're basically saying the Brewers would have had to give up two pitchers and Jesus Mate, two mid-tier young pitchers and Jesus Mate for Tarik Skubal, and they didn't do it. That's just, I think, a bad look for the Brewers, not fully committing to going all in. And as much as I want to hate on the Dodgers and say they're ruining baseball, which I think they are, it's not their fault that they got Skubal. He, like I said, he could have went anywhere. Teams could have made better deals. Tarik Skubal said it himself. He's like, I don't blame the Dodgers for putting out the best product, and he's right. It's not the Dodgers' fault that they gave the best offer for this guy. There's no reason for them to want to slow down and stop getting players. And if it's a good deal for both sides, I can understand why the Tigers took it. They're just, no one else must have been willing to give up enough of that quality to get him. But I do think that Zaire Hope, Max Clark, and Kevin McGonigal is an insanely good young core for the Detroit Tigers. Those three are going to be Tigers for a long time, and I think that is very, very fun. But moves like this, honestly, I mean, like I said, is it the Dodgers' fault? No. But do I think it's good for baseball? Also no. You can't have every single good player and all-star on the same team. I don't think it's good for baseball that this is able to happen. And moves like this are why, I'll get to this more later, obviously, that I think there is most definitely going to be some sort of lockout during the 2027 season. And I already talked about, like I said, what packages that I think were offered, because I think a lot of teams missed out. But at the same time, I begin to think maybe are some of these teams purposefully kind of gearing it towards the Dodgers making the best play for it, ownership-wise, to help their case out in terms of pitching the idea of a salary cap and floor next season? Are they trying to make the Dodgers seem like such a big problem no one else can win the World Series that hopefully the players become more agreeable when it comes to those terms? I'm not sure. I think some teams would probably care more about having Tarik Skubal on their team and winning the World Series than they would about potentially just changing the rules of how the money works within Major League Baseball going forward. But I don't know. It really could be either. I don't think it's fully that. That might have had some influence on it. But nonetheless, regardless of what could have happened or what teams could have done, Tarik Skubal is a Los Angeles Dodger through the 2026 season. Where will he go next year? I have no idea. It'll make for a very fun free agency. Everyone talking about Tarik Skubal again. His name will be the talk of the town, just like it has been the last couple months once free agency hits. I still think the Brewers are the best team. We got a comment from Callan here, actually. He couldn't agree more with me. That's good. I like when people agree with me. As much as he despises the Dodgers, it's a bad look for the other 29 teams out there. It really is. It really is. I couldn't agree with you more, Callan. We are on the same page with agreeing about this. I love it. But in terms of where Skubal, I think he'll go in free agency next year. I still think the Brewers are the best fit. I mean, if the Brewers are going to fork up, if the Brewers, maybe they think they can get him in free agency, and that's why they're not trying to go after him and give up prospects this season, that could potentially be it, because I still think pairing Skubal up with Miz would be one of the best 1-2 punches ever, and that if the Brewers are serious about finally winning a World Series, that they need to go out and do that. So that could be a potential. But the silver lining for all you Dodgers haters out there, including myself, is at least it's only a guy that's good for 1 in every 5 games. You know, like Tarik Skubal can't play every single game of the NLCS and consistently help this team out. He gets one chance to shine. Playoff speaking, probably every 3 games. Regular season, 5 games. It's not an everyday player. This doesn't make the Dodgers unbeatable. It's not like they picked up, Adley Rutschman or some hot bat that's like it's not like they picked up Aaron Judge, like a guy who's one of the best at his position but plays every single day, can help out in every single game. He can only help out 1 in every 3 to 5, depending on if you're talking about postseason or regular season. So, I mean, I hope that the lockout fixes these Dodgers antics, just because as much as I don't like the Dodgers, I also just want to see a new team win. I mean, from the year 2000 up until 2000 last year when the Dodgers repeated, we saw a different World Series champion every single year. 25 straight World Series without a repeat champion. The last ones were the Yankees, who won in 98, 99, and 2000. I mean, I loved that baseball was like that for the entirety of my life up until last year. New champion every year. And I'm not saying that teams can't repeat and three-peat. Like, I think that's it's a great telling sign of like building a dynasty. But this isn't how it should happen. It shouldn't be because they buy every single and trade for every single good player on the market to get there. And I know that's kind of what the Yankees did back then, collecting all those good players, but I just hope for a change. I hope to see more competitiveness and more belief that smaller market teams and even some of like the smaller big market teams can actually go out and win it. And it's not just, and keep their players too. And it's not just, the Dodgers are going to get them or the Dodgers are going to win. I hate that discourse about baseball, and I hope it comes to an end. And speaking of things coming to an end, that is also the end of the Tarik Skubal is a Dodger segment. And now, instead of talking about a bunch of things that did happen, now is the portion of the show where I talk to you about some things that didn't happen. So for this segment, I got 3 moves that I wanted to see happen that didn't happen, plus a bonus move, which is something that I wasn't expecting to happen, but that was blocked. I'll give you a little hint. Someone invoked their no trade clause today. So we're going to get into that. The first thing I have, and I've been talking about this team a lot today, I almost could have made them the State of the Union just for how they handled the deadline, but I think this is going to be the last time I yell at them this episode. The Brewers didn't get a dominant number 2 to complement Mizorowski in the playoffs. The starting rotation is still strong, not super strong, but it's solid. It's good. It's serviceable and will win them more games than it will lose them. However, they did not beef it up exactly like I expected them to at this deadline. I mean, like the moves they made were fine. I thought they were going to go after a Freddie Peralta or a Tarik Skubal or a Kevin Gausman, like a bigger, more established number 2 to complement Miz. Now, or Casey Mize even. Casey Mize would have fit that very well. And like I said, they did get Dustin May. But is anyone really excited in Milwaukee about Dustin May? I mean, he was okay with the Cardinals. Now you're getting a maybe above average number 2 starter, no near a dominant number 2. I mean, I don't think. Let me put it like this: if you're a Brewers fan and you trot out Miz game 1, you win, and then you trot out any of the 3 of Freddie Peralta, Casey Mize, or Tarik Skubal game 2, you're probably like, ooh, we have a really good chance to take a 2-0 lead in this series. But if you you're trotting out Dustin May for game 2 now, I don't think there's any realm in which any Brewers fan feels insanely confident that they're going to win that game just because they got Dustin May pitching. Like, they needed to get a guy that they felt confident could win a game 2 after Miz more often than not. And Dustin May just isn't that guy for me. So I think the Brewers, while their trade deadline was fine, I think they just missed out on a huge opportunity to beef up that rotation. My second move that I was surprised didn't get made was the fact that the Rays didn't buy a middle infield bat. Now, the Tampa Bay Rays, they had a solid deadline. They're the best team in the American League, so it's not like they needed to clear house and change too much. But we all know middle infield was lacking. There were Ketel Marte rumors. There were Francisco Lindor rumors. There were Luis Arias rumors. CJ Abrams even. Like, there were shortstops and second basemen that everyone was talking about potentially going to the Rays because that was just a weaker spot on the field for them. They did pick up Freddie Peralta, and they added Liam Hicks, who is a catcher. He'll help them out behind the dish. But in terms of middle infield depth, they are still very thin, and there's nothing that can change that now. I don't know how that'll hold up, if that'll be if there's going to be a price for them to pay come playoff time, if they're going to regret not being more aggressive going after Arias or Ketel. I'm not sure how it'll go, but like I said, this is the best team in the American League record-wise. They didn't need to, like I said, reinvent the wheel with this team. I was just surprised that, they got Peralta, great. They got Hicks, great. But I think stopping there and not getting at least I know even if you couldn't get a Ketel or an Arias, just a little shift at second base, I think would have been beneficial because they're just so thin at middle infield. The third thing that I was surprised that didn't happen, and I know we got our Padres fan, Callum McClurg, in here, so he might have a thought on this or two. I'll see if he agrees with me. Mason Miller leaving San Diego. I was surprised that didn't happen. I thought that this would have been a fantastic time for the Padres to trade him. I mean, they have a weak farm system. Everyone knows that, in large part because they traded for Mason Miller. And I think right now was a great time to buy him with the lack of high-end relievers just in baseball, period, and then compound that with ones that could have been on the market. Mason Miller fit into a very, if this was a Venn diagram of those types of pitchers, Mason Miller is one of very few in there. So I was surprised they didn't take this opportunity in a season where he's playing fantastic to go out and get they would have gotten a solid return of prospects and probably a guy that can play up at the major league level or two for Mason Miller. I think this would have been a great time to trade him. I don't think they're going to be a team that goes out and win the World Series. And at the same time, too, kind of the same reason for the Tarik Skubal thing, he has even less of a factor on every game. And not only does he might pitch he might pitch back-to-back games, maybe 4 out of 7 days a week if it's closing opportunities, but he's only good for 1 inning every few games. You can find decent amount of people out there that won't be Mason Miller level necessarily for that 1 inning to close out a game. But in terms of trading for guys who could, parallel the skill level of Leo DeVry, who's an everyday shortstop playing for the Athletics now, that you gave up for him, I'm just surprised they didn't take that opportunity to rebuild the farm system a little bit and get a bit of a return on that investment. I think they should have. I wouldn't have minded where he went, honestly, as long as it wasn't the Dodgers, but it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. Will they? Because he had a lot of control too. I mean, they could have really milked that. It'll be even less control next year. It'll be interesting to see how he goes. But I think the Padres definitely could have gotten away with trading Mason Miller, and it would have been actually beneficial to them. I guarantee you they would have been able to get someone to overpay. And then finally, the trade block that I alluded to earlier, Jacob deGrom invoked his no-trade clause today and blocked a trade. Now, the rumors were that the Braves were inquiring about deGrom. I am not sure of what the potential return would be. I didn't see any news on that. I also am not 100% all I know is the Braves inquired about deGrom. It hasn't been officially reported that the trade was going to be to the Braves. That is just the only team that was known of that did inquire about him. But nonetheless, deGrom said, no, I want to stay with the Rangers. And I kind of do think it's the Braves because, I don't know, I wonder why he wouldn't want to go to the Braves. Is it because he used to be a Met and he doesn't want to go back to a division rival of that team? Like, that could be a reason. Maybe he just wanted to stay in Texas, for familial reasons. He's got a life in Texas. He's been there for a while now. Maybe he just doesn't want to pack up and move, and that's also totally justifiable. People have lives outside of baseball. He very well could have just wanted to stay put. So there's a myriad of reasons as to why it could have been. I'm interested to see if he or anyone in the Brewers or potentially Braves front office will be asked about that this week, and if we will get more details. But those are the moves that didn't get made. The Brewers didn't get their dominant number 2. The Rays didn't beef up the middle infield, and Mason Miller stayed a Padre and did not get dealt. And on top of that, deGrom blocked a potential trade to likely the Braves, but not confirmed. Now, moving right along here, last subject in terms of trade deadline talk. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. The deadline winners and losers. So I got 3 winners and a couple honorable mentions as well that I'll get to, and then 3 losers with another honorable mention. So my honorable mentions for winners are the Washington Nationals and the Colorado Rockies. They didn't fall victim to the rumors. They kept their young stars to build around. Sorry. I think it's important that they did that. I mean, the Rockies held on to Goodman, and the Nationals held on to James Wood and C.J. Abrams. They did lose Luis Garcia Jr., but for an offense that's as loaded as Washington's, I can understand trading away a bat for a good deal. It's not like they fire sold. They traded away Luis Garcia Jr. I can't remember the exact return from the Yankees, but it's not some awful, terrible, oh, God, what are the Nationals doing? It's okay that they gave up one player. They kept the guys who I believe mattered the most. And same for the Rockies. I mean, like I said, they kept Jake McCarthy and Hunter Goodman. I think they still sold their fair share of guys because, like I said, those teams need to do something to move the needle because obviously what they have isn't working in its entirety. But nonetheless, they kept the guys that they needed to keep in order to continue to be taken as serious organizations that are trying to win. So for the fans and for the organizations themselves, big wins keeping those guys for the Nationals and Rockies. My 3 winners, and these are not my 3 biggest winners. These 3 had the best deadlines because there were a lot of intricacies within this deadline, and the deadline only ended about 4 hours ago for me now, 3.5 before the show started. There isn't exactly an abundance of time for me to break down all 30 teams and their deadlines and how they did. So in broad strokes and what I was able to fit in the research time I had, these are just 3 teams who I think definitely are winners at the deadline. The first, obviously, is the Los Angeles Dodgers. I mean, you landed Skubal. That landing Skubal, whoever would have landed Tarik Skubal would have been a winner, and it's obvious because of that. They didn't even have to give up much, so there's no even debate on if they're winners or not. He's going to pair amazingly with Yamamoto in the postseason. He was the big fish this deadline. Dodgers got him there, a winner. Second, I got the White Sox. They picked up some nice arms with Luis Castillo and Huascar Brazoban, and they weren't afraid to go all in after this amazing first almost 4.5 months of the season. I mean, with a 3-game divisional lead over Cleveland, who also had a very good active deadline, they were ambitious and are looking to keep that 3-game lead and not just make the playoffs, but win the division. I absolutely love that the White Sox aren't playing around, and because they so easily could have been a team that's like, oh, you were good, but you didn't make the right moves at the deadline, and that's going to hurt us because everyone around us got better. I was kind of fearing that the White Sox were going to fall into that, They did not. I do think they got better. They did lose, obviously, Sir Anthony Dominguez, but I don't think that's big of a deal because they brought in, obviously, Brazoban and Castillo. I love the aggressiveness. I love their deadline. White Sox are a winner. And then my final winner, it's the Pittsburgh Pirates. I mean, they are a game under 500 right now. They're 56 and 57. And in terms of the wild card standings, they're the third team out, 3.5 games back. And it's just been a roller coaster. I mean, they were ahead of the Marlins. They were behind the Marlins. They were in a playoff spot, out of a playoff spot. They find themselves 3.5 back, chasing down 4 teams for the final 2 spots, because I'm pretty sure Cubs got that one locked up, or the 4 seed locked up. Their one glaring weakness was their bullpen, and they fixed it. Seemingly, on paper, they fixed it. We have to see how everyone performs, but they brought in Lake Bakar, Kirby Yates, Luke Weaver, and Camilo Doval. Completely revamped the bullpen in a way that, as a fan, gets me pretty excited for these last 2 months of the season. Interested to see if more late leads can be held onto with these new relievers in this better bullpen. Because Pirates would have a lot more wins if it wasn't for their bullpen. So if they can have a really strong last 2 months of the season, they could be in a playoff spot. And at the end of the day, you could say other teams were bigger winners, but the Pirates did exactly what they needed to do to put themselves in the best position they could to make the playoffs. And in my book, when you do that, you get a winner. Now for the losers real quick. My honorable mention loser is the Yankees. The Yankees did make some decent moves. I like the Heliot Ramos pickup, and I like the Luis Garcia Jr. pickup. It's actually insane. I mean, you're talking about Yankees not landing Mason Miller, trading away Camilo Doval. They were up 7-6 on the Cardinals after 7 innings and a 4-run 7th to come back. And they gave up 3 runs in the top of the 8th and are now down 9-7 and still haven't yet to record. And never mind. They just gave up a home run. It is now 11-7 Cardinals. Yankees gave up 5 in the 8th and are now down 4. Luis Garcia Jr. hit his first home run tonight as a Yankee. So, like I said, the moves weren't bad. They just didn't improve where they had to. They have guys that will come back from injury, but they didn't improve at second, third, short, or catcher. Like, they needed a lot of help in the infield, and of course, the position they grab is the first baseman. Like, it's amazing to me. Like I said, guys back from injury will help. Team's still fairly solid, but they could have done so much better. Like, they made fine moves, but just not the best moves for where they were at roster-wise. Because now Jose Caballero, Anthony Volpe, Jazz Chisholm, Austin Wells, and Ryan McMahon are still going to be getting way more at-bats as a collective than they should. They really could have cut down the at-bats that those 5 have to share at this deadline, and they failed at doing so. So, my other 3 teams who I have as designated losers. The first one is the St. Louis Cardinals. They're only 4 games back of the wild card. They had a chance to buy some small pieces and make a push, but by the way they dealt, Jojo Romero, Dustin May, Lars Nootbaar, guys you would have assumed would help them down that run. Like, if they were serious about winning this season, they would have hung on to. They gave them away, and I thought the returns were a bit lackluster. I wasn't completely blown away by anything. I'll get into more airing my grievances about the Cardinals here soon when I get to the State of the Union. But I was just underwhelmed by the direction in which they took their trade deadline and what they ended up getting back for what they gave away. Second is the Mets for about the same reason. They sold a lot of big league guys. As I said earlier, Tyrone Taylor, Clay Holmes, Luke Weaver, Huascar Brazoban, Freddie Peralta. And the Mets definitely got fleeced for Luke Weaver. I mean, the Pirates, let me take you in the time machine real quick. Last year, Pittsburgh Pirates traded Ke'Bryan Hayes to the Reds for Sammy Stafura, who is our number 14 overall prospect, and I think Taylor Rogers, who we then traded away, and maybe some cash. Ke'Bryan Hayes is one of the worst hitters in the league right now, and it's abysmal. He is terrible. I used to love the guy, but I'm sorry, he just cannot hit the ball. And the Pirates traded that same prospect that they got for Ke'Bryan Hayes to the Mets for Luke Weaver in a 1-to-1 deal. They flipped Ke'Bryan Hayes, who just sucks, in the Luke Weaver with a 1.5 years of control, who's one of the best relievers in the National League. Absolute masterclass by Ben Cherington in terms of making that trade happen 1-for-1. But there were so many trades like that where the Mets just could have gotten a lot more, like especially for Weaver. That was like their biggest fish, and they took the 14 over. It was not even a top 100 prospect in MLB. He's the Pirates' 14th best. I just think Mets could have gotten way more for that, and I'm surprised they settled for so little. I'm happy they did because I'm a Pirate fan, obviously. Give me Weave. I'm excited about it. I can't wait, but man, the Mets it feels like they mismanaged giving away this talent. And then my third loser is the Seattle Mariners. They're 2 games back of the wild card, 3 back of the division going into tonight, and they basically stayed stagnant, which is one of the worst things you can do at the trade deadline for a fringe team like the Mariners. I mean, they brought in Taylor Ward, and they swapped Luis Castillo for Sir Anthony Dominguez. That basically does nothing to me. You add an okay bat that doesn't really move the needle that much. I mean, this is not the highly sought-after Taylor Ward of like last year and 2 years ago that people were talking about. He's been okay this year. I don't think he's the bat you needed. And in the pitcher trade also doesn't really move the needle for me. Could be just the change of scenery thing that helps out both teams with their guys, but I don't love any of the moves. And for a team in such a weak division in that AL West, they could have really went in and helped strengthen their position in that weak division and push back into a playoff spot. But they kind of did nothing, and I think they were in a great position to do at least something, and they just didn't. So I have the Seattle Mariners as a loser. Mariners, you're losers. But with that being my last loser, that's how you know that segment is over. Now it is time for us to move on, or I'll run back my winners and losers for you real quick, just in case you forgot. My winners were the Dodgers, White Sox, and Pirates with honorable mentions to the Nationals and Rockies. And my losers were the Cardinals, Mets, and Mariners with an honorable mention to the Yankees. Now, we've talked about a bunch of stuff that has and hasn't happened. Now let's talk about something that might or might not happen. The impending lockout, 2027. It's going to be a pivotal year for baseball. One of the biggest years for baseball in a long time. I mean, I remember the collective bargaining agreement, like the 2021-2022 one that took place. This one feels even bigger than that. I mean, the CBA is going to expire. The collective bargaining agreement, that's what the CBA stands for, is expiring on December 1st of this year. The Players Association and the owners have a lot to figure out, it seems. And because of how much they have to figure out, it just really feels like there's going to be some time missed in this season, at least. Maybe all the time. I'll give you my opinion on how I think that'll happen once I get through my breakdown of the reasons for the lockout and everything. But through my research, I found 4 big reasons as to why this lockout will take a long time. Those 4 are the salary cap and floor, revenue sharing changes, some more general economic changes, and then obviously just the negotiation tactic of putting things off and leverage. So I'm going to go slightly in depth to each of these 4, not too long, but I am going to give you my 2 cents. So the first thing on the salary cap and the floor, you're unaware this is how it's going down. The owners are pushing for a hard cap and floor. The players don't want that at all because they think this is just going to be a way for them to decrease player salaries and limit team payrolls. I think I tend to side with the players in a lot of the things that they discuss with the owners, but I think they're just totally in the wrong here. I think they care too much about their money over the integrity of the game. I think the players need to swallow their pride a little bit and realize this is not just so people can be cheaper and pay guys less money. This is to even the playing field for all 30 teams in Major League Baseball. I wish more players would realize that. And like I said, I think the players are in the wrong here and the owners are in the right, and this sport needs a cap and floor. Second bit is about the revenue sharing changes. Owners have proposed a strict 50-50 revenue split between the league and the players. Now, the problem here is that for some reason, players are skeptical of how the league defines and tracks revenue, and a fixed percentage split it looks like it's going to be a major hurdle in these negotiations. Now, there is no formal split in the MLB as of now, so it's not like they're changing one that already exists. They're implementing it for the first time. From rough estimates that I've read online, it looks like the players get about 47% right now. So it would be upping it to 50, and the players seem to be the ones that are going to be pushing back on this. They're going to be making more money. I just don't see where the skepticism comes from. Like, from what it reads here, as I told you, they're skeptical of how the league defines and tracks revenue. But to me, that's just like, you're just creating problems that aren't there. It's such a small change to me, in my opinion. And the old man here agreeing with me, my dad tuning into the stream, he was on the fence about the Yankee deadline, but he agrees with me. He thinks they're losers. Callan also tuning in. He says, give me a spending floor. I agree with you. As a fan of a small market team, I wouldn't mind forcing us to spend more money, which, increases the likelihood that we go out and get better players. But as I was saying, in terms of the lockout, I just don't fully understand why there would be. Hopefully the revenue sharing doesn't have too much of a holdout on whether or not games will be played. I think 99% of that is going to be the salary cap and floor. But hopefully, though, this isn't as big of an issue, because I don't think it should be as big of an issue as to be classified as a major hurdle. Now, on the subject of economic changes, the third bullet point. Players want aggressive hikes in the league's baseline minimum salary. This is to better compensate the younger players outperforming their contracts. All right, so the trend, if you haven't picked up on it, seems to be the players want more money, except for in revenue sharing changes where they're getting more money but are skeptical about it. So far, like, the players are pissing me off. That's all I can say about this so far. Owners want a hard cap. Players are favoring to expand the current soft competitive balance tax thresholds to allow high-spending teams more freedom to buy talent. I mean, in terms of the third, I'd say the first two bullet points, I blame the players for being a bit stubborn. This third one, the economic changes, seems pretty fair to me. I think this one I think they'll come to an agreement on the economic changes pretty quick. I don't think this one will be as big of a holdup. So I'm not upset at the owners or the players in terms of these economic changes. I think this is going to be more of just a fine-tune the details as we go along type thing. That shouldn't be a major talking point in terms of the season locking out. But then finally, the fourth reason as to why we might not have a Major League Baseball season next year is just the topic of leverage. Both teams, I mean, nothing's going to happen before December 1st, 2026. Everybody knows that. Both teams are going to try to hold off to pressure the other side into making a decision. And I know that's how things go in negotiating, but I just absolutely hate it. I mean, and that's how these guys are going to get what they want. I mean, this is their jobs. This is the livelihood of both the owners and the players. So obviously this means a lot to them, and they're going to want to make sure they get what they believe is right. So there's going to be holding out. But it's just gonna, the longer and longer you hold out, the less and less games are gonna get to be played. And the one thing that all three parties of owners, players, and then the fans on the outside want are games to be played next season. Everyone wants that. So while leverage is going to be a factor, and it's really going to delay the CBA agreement, or just the CBA, because the A in that stands for agreement. While it will delay it, I don't think the leverage aspect of it will delay it so long as to where we miss games. If we're missing games, like I said, I think that in large part is going to be because of the salary cap and floor. So now, to answer the question, how do I think the 2026 season will unfold? Do I think we will see 162 games? No. Do I think we will see 0 games and no World Series champion named for the first time since 1994? Also, no. If I had to take a stance on this, which I'm about to, we're going to see a season. We're going to see a champion, but it's probably going to be a season between 60 and 100 games, kind of like the COVID season. Obviously, though, instead of a global pandemic delaying the start of the season, it'll obviously be the CBA. But I think because of that COVID season, it has allowed everyone to see that, yeah, you can play a solid season that is between 60 and 100 regular season games. Now, if we get to a point where they are unable to fit in 60 games of a regular season, then I think that is what will lead to the season getting canceled. But as long as there is time to fit in at least 60, I think we see a season next year. So that's all I got on the lockout. That's where things stand right now. Obviously, there's a lot of things that both the players and the owners are worried about more now than the lockout with, the trade deadline and playoff pushes and all that. There's a lot else to talk about. But given the Tarik Skubal trade kind of reigniting talks about what's wrong with baseball and why there does need to be a lockout, I wanted to make sure I included some details on it in this episode. However, this will most certainly not be the last time I discuss this lockout, because this is going to be a huge story going forward. It's just going to be a little while probably before I talk about it again. Probably when we get to around December and this current CBA ends, talks of the lockout and new CBA will most definitely ramp up. And the Pirates just won. Pirates beat the Brewers back to 500. I know you all care. I know you all care about that, right? My Pirates updates. For my Pirates fans out there, bullpen held on to a 1-run lead. We won the game. Cheers to that. But now we're going to yell at another baseball team. You know who it is. It's a team that's up 6 right now. Yankees they gave up 7 to the Cardinals in the 8th, in case you were curious. It's St. Louis Cardinals State of the Union time. So this is a pretty quick one. We're already almost at an hour into this episode. A lot of baseball talk, a lot of trade talk. 193 of you don't mind at all. You've been here the whole time watching and enjoying. I really appreciate it. We're in the home stretch here, a little more baseball talk, and then you enjoy the rest of your nights listening to, maybe other people talk about other sports. But I almost got you done with your baseball fix here in this last third of the episode. And it starts with talking about the Cardinals. Now, I've already aired my grievances about their trade deadline and why I think it was subpar. So I'm not going to rehash all that. To summarize it, they had a chance to make a push for the playoffs with some moves, and they chose not to do so. That's how I'll summarize that. But in terms of how they got here, they were looking like buyers for a large chunk of this season, but July absolutely killed them. They were 10-18 in July. They went 8 games under 500. And at the beginning of July, they were 6 games over 500 and in a playoff spot. And now they're down to 4th in their division on the outside looking in. Only half a game back of the Pirates, so they're not totally out of it. But like I said, just compound the way they've played with the way they handled the deadline. It just doesn't seem like they're gearing up to get better and make a push to outperform these teams. Seems like they're just kind of going to stay the same, or maybe just get a little better or worse, but just not move the needle too much. The offense has just been terrible. It cooled off a lot after the trade deadline and after Jordan Walker won the home run derby. You wonder if that cursed them or something, because their team average is 216. As a team, they're not even hitting 250. 250 is a bit of a high bar, but 216 as a team is still terrible. It's the worst team OPS they've had of any month so far. In July, their slash line as a team, 285 on base percentage, 328 slugging, gets you a 613 OPS. That is low. That is bad. And from the beginning of the season, I made a preseason prediction that this St. Louis Cardinals team would have the 2nd worst record in the National League. That is obviously not correct. I was totally wrong on that. But that was grounded in the fact that I didn't think this team had a roster that would be competitive. Now, on one end, there have been points in time this season where I truly did believe that the Cardinals were going to do it. But could this just be them cooling down after a hot start? Now, it's hard to call about a 110 game stretch a hot start. That is basically 2/3 of your season, but it's like they're just kind of evening out now. They were over 500 for a long period of time. Now they've evened out back down to 500. Now, 2 games under 500, they're probably going to win the night. 1 game under 500. They're just hovering around the 500 mark, which is still better than I thought they'd be, but that doesn't make them a good team. And they had a chance if they would have just kept up their play that they had in the months of May and June into July, we're probably talking about a totally different Cardinals team today that bought and strengthened their position within the NL wildcard race. But it kind of just seems like now the Cardinals are lying down and feeling like we had a good run up until July. We got some solid pieces. We're not going to give up our farm system. Instead, we're going to trade away some of these mediocre guys we got and wait until next season. I don't know if I love it. I would have preferred, if I'm a Cardinals fan, to try a little bit with where they were at. I mean, it's not like they were 5 games out or like 10 games out of a wild card spot, you know. As things stand right now, they're only 4. So I don't understand it. It's never a bad move to set up your future. I mean, like I said, with a better month of July, this team would have been buyers, but that's just how it goes. So that's honestly my short and sweet State of the Union for the St. Louis Cardinals. Basically to say, because of their play, it ruined their season. The deadline is just reflective of their play over the last month. They play better. They have a more exciting deadline, but they played bad. They went from the 5 seed in the NL to now they are the 10 seed in the NL. They're the 10th best team in the National League. So they dropped a lot. They hurt themselves, and in large part because they couldn't hit that well. So that's what I got for you on my State of the Union for the St. Louis Cardinals. Now we're going to be talking about studs. 8th topic, always there for you. It's the 3 studs of the week. Now, this week, it's kind of a fun 3 studs of the week. I thought these were all very worthy. My small stud is Kyle Freeland. He's a veteran who's been in this game quite a while, and he tossed his first career complete game against the Royals. Now, there are people that have better performances than just one complete game this week, but this is a veteran who's been around the league for a while. It's a huge career milestone. He deserves, this is a guy who's been around a long time, deserves to have this on his, in his baseball reference page, on his stat sheet. Complete game. Wasn't a complete game shutout, but big career milestone for a veteran, first career complete game. I love seeing stuff like that, so I wanted to acknowledge that at the small stud position. Secondly, for the medium stud, I got Ceddanne Rafaela on the Boston Red Sox. He hit .419 this week, going 13 for 31, led the MLB with 5 home runs this week, and was a big piece in the Boston Red Sox going into LA and sweeping the Dodgers. I mean, that was a bit of an unprecedented sweep. If you watch Unnecessary Wagers, which you can catch every Friday at 5 p.m., me and my co-host Connor Rowland doing that show every week, you'd know that I thought the Red Sox were going to win that series, but I said that I definitely didn't think it would be a sweep. And I was wrong about that. It very impressive sweep for the Red Sox. I'm going to be talking about them a little bit more here in our last topic. Maybe that's a little hint for you. But Ceddanne Rafaela, medium stud. And then my big stud of the week is the new kid on the block, Max Clark on the Detroit Tigers. What a way to introduce yourself into Major League Baseball. Hit .500, went going 6 for 12 with a home run, 3 RBIs, and 4 runs scored in his debut series against the Athletics. Can't ask for a better week, honestly, out of one of your brightest stars, especially at a time where the Tigers are probably feeling pretty upset over losing Skubal and Mize and not even getting the most insane returns for them. He's a very much needed bright spot in that organization right now. So I'm very happy to see him playing that way because, like I said, man, Max Clark, Kevin McGonigal, and Zaire Hope, that is the future in Detroit. And I would be excited about that if I was a Detroit Tigers fan, especially seeing that you got a Rookie of the Year favorite right now in Kevin McGonigal, an absolute spark plug in Max Clark coming onto the scene. And then there's a lot to be excited about when it comes to Zaire Hope as well. So running those studs back for you, it's Kyle Freeland at the small stud for his first complete game of his career against the Royals. The medium stud, Ceddanne Rafaela, for hitting .419, 5 homers, and helping Red Sox sweep the Dodgers in a big way. And then the big stud, Max Clark, for coming into the league and absolutely lighting it up with a .500 batting average, a home run, 3 RBIs, and 4 runs that he has scored. So now we're about to head into our 9th topic. And this is where we're going to look back on the month of July and give some recognition to some players and a moment and some teams who just killed it. There's no other way to put it. These guys, in my opinion, were the best of the best in obviously the respect of each award that I'm about to give. If you haven't tuned into an awards episode before, I'll let you know I got 6 awards: the Mound Maestro, the Big Old Boomstick, the Bat on Ball, the Diamond Defender, Top Dog, and the Moneyball Award. Mound Maestro is for the best pitcher. Big Old Boomstick goes to the best power hitter. Bat on Ball goes to the most reliable contact hitter. Diamond Defender goes to the best fielder. Top Dog goes to the best team. And the Moneyball Award is just the moment that made you feel romantic about baseball this month. So starting off with the Mound Maestro Award. That award goes to Yankee ace Cam Schlittler. Had 5 starts this month, went 2-1 with a 1.93 ERA, posted 42 strikeouts and only 5 walks, had a whip of .73, an opponent batting average of 164, and he only gave up 7 runs, all of them which were earned over 32 2/3 innings pitched. And basically this month has kind of solidified his position as the AL frontrunner for Cy Young, the favorite. It is, I think, officially his award to lose. So congratulations to Cam Schlittler on an amazing month of July. Then for the Big Old Boomstick Award, I gave it to a Pittsburgh Pirate. I gave it to Esmeralyn Valdez. Hit 8 home runs in the month of July to the tune of 25 RBIs, 5 doubles, a triple, and he scored 17 runs. His slash line, 355 on base, 587 slugging for a 942 OPS. Also took home NL Rookie of the Month honors, and out of nowhere has launched himself into the Rookie of the Year conversation. I don't think he's going to overtake J.J. Weatherholt. J.J. has just been consistent all season. I believe that is his award to lose. But Valdez is looking like he'll make himself a finalist, which is fun. So good on Esmeralyn Valdez. Hitting the cover off the ball has been fantastic. And I promise you, this ain't biased. This is just truly who I think deserves what. I'm staying within the Pittsburgh Pirates organization for the Bat on Ball Award, and I'm giving it to third baseman Nick Gonzalez. He hit 388 in the month of July, nearly hit 400. His on-base percentage was .438. His slugging was .544. That's good for a 982 OPS. Over 112 plate appearances, he went 40 for 103 to get him to that 388 batting average. Had 7 doubles, 3 home runs, had 14 RBIs and 14 strikeouts. So for every strikeout he had this month, last month, he also had an RBI, and he drew 8 walks. So Nick Gonzalez was constantly getting on base for the Pirates. I watched him a lot. It felt like he had a really high average in July, and it was damn near 400. So congratulations to Nick Gonzalez taking Bat on Ball Award home. Then for the Diamond Defender Award, I'm giving it to Jackson Merrill. This season, he's got 940 innings played and 272 total chances. He's got 264 putouts, 7 assists. He's got a double play. He does have an error. So this is the first time a Diamond Defender has had an error this year. But we're so deep into the season that amount of innings at your position matter. There are guys with a 1,000 fielding percentage who have played a third of the innings that Jackson Merrill has this year. I mean, Jackson Merrill, he's been that guy. So well-deserving. He is our Diamond Defender of the month of July. Then for the Top Dog Award, I alluded to it earlier. It's the team that went on a 15-game win streak. It's Ben Cruz's Boston Red Sox. They finished the month of July at 22-4. 18 games over 500. They set a franchise record for the highest winning percentage in a single month. And they went from almost guaranteed sellers at the deadline to second in the AL wildcard and big buyers who secured Adley Rutschman. I mean, this month of July totally flipped and changed their season around for the better. For the worse if you're, a Yankee fan or just anyone who doesn't like the Red Sox. But if you are a Red Sox fan, this was an amazing month for you. And as much as I don't like the Red Sox, I am a bit of a Yankee fan myself, I got to tip my cap. I mean, you deserve to be in a wild card spot when you have a month like this. Only losing 4 games in a month, it is extremely impressive. So giving credit where credit is due, swallow the pride a little bit. Boston Red Sox, you were the best team in baseball for the month of July. And then for the Moneyball Award, the fun little just seeing a moment that's like, hey, that makes you feel a little romantic about baseball. I'm giving it to Anthony Rizzo for catching another home run in the stands as a fan at a Cubs game. And he did it this year while celebrating the 10-year anniversary of the Cubs' 2016 World Series championship. And he did it while wearing his Game 7 jersey from that 2016 World Series. So I think he was holding his son, too, or his daughter. I'm not sure. I think he was holding his child. Such a cool moment, man. And the fact now that it's happened back-to-back years, too, when he's been there is just so cool. I love that. Another fun bit about that story, too, is that he lent his he originally gave his World Series jersey to his dad kind of as a present. His dad got a mustard stain on it that he can't get out. That's just the most, like, dad thing ever, and I think that's hilarious. So that's who I got for the Moneyball Award. Running it back, Cam Schlittler is our mound maestro. Esmeralyn Valdez is the big old boomstick. Nick Gonzalez wins bat on ball. Jackson Merrill is our diamond defender. The top dogs are the Boston Red Sox, and the Moneyball Award goes to Anthony Rizzo for being a home run magnet. So those are our starting 9 topics. Got through them all, talked a lot of ball, but that's not all because we got the top 10. I made it all rhyme. I felt good about that. That was off the top. I like that transition. And for this one, I'm keeping it sports related. I know I've done a couple consecutive weeks now, or consecutive episodes, I guess, of sports related top 10s. I'll switch it up next week, but given that this is the big old baseball episode, the top 10 had to be about baseball. So we spent all episode talking about the deadline and teams and their position in the playoffs and what they're looking to do as summer slowly begins to turn to fall and the postseason begins to ramp up. I am giving you my top 10 teams in Major League Baseball post-trade deadline. So there were a lot of teams to pick from. I do want to start off with the fact, though, that I have 5 honorable mentions. The Pirates, Guardians, Diamondbacks, Astros, and Nationals. In no particular order. I believe they are the 5 between the 11th and 15th best team in Major League Baseball. All of them had very solid deadlines, I believe, and they deserve credit for being for putting themselves and being in a good position at this time of the season. I just don't think they cracked the top 10. So my top 10 started off at number 10. I got the San Diego Padres. I think with the 2 starting pitching additions and the fact that they have also just naturally been starting to play better, it makes them a legitimate, not a huge threat, but a legitimate team that can go in and cause some disruption in the AL wildcard. Or NL wildcard, sorry. It would be crazy if they caused a disruption in the AL. In the 9th spot, I got the Phillies. The Phillies were already a good team. They were getting worse. I do still think they're in the top 10. Adding a contact guy like a Luis Arias maybe wasn't the best move they could have made, but also does not hurt whatsoever and still a good move nonetheless. Number 8, I got the New York Yankees. They were a good team. They're going to be Bellinger, Stanton, and Judge are all going to come back eventually. That rotation has got some legit dudes in it with Fried and Schlittler and Cole. Rodon's been okay, but it's just the Yankees are in a good spot. They didn't make the moves they needed to make, but they made some okay moves. And that's why I got them at the lower side of this top 10 at 8th. I got the Boston Red Sox at number 7, and that's in large part due to the Adley Rutschman acquisition. As I just gassed them up, they went 22-4 in July. They just swept the Dodgers, and now they got even better on offense. So the Boston Red Sox are absolutely surging right now, and they're looking to keep that going. Number 6, I got the Rays. I didn't want to put the Red Sox above the Rays just because I do need to recognize the fact that the Tampa Bay Rays are the best team in the American League. They're 65-46. And the Red Sox are 5 games back of them. Red Sox, I mean, could the Red Sox win the AL East? that might be a topic for another day, but man, they very well could. I mean, maybe if I were to go back and do this, I'd flip-flop, put the Red Sox above the Rays, but the Rays are still a really solid team who just, picked up Freddie Peralta and Liam Hicks. Until I see them start to decline, I still honestly do feel comfortable with the Rays being in that 6th spot. Number 5, I got the Cubs. The Cubs have been playing fantastically. They are 4 games up in the wild card race now, so they're sitting comfortably. And the big question mark was the starting pitching and just the pitching in general. And then they go out and get Clay Holmes and Kevin Gausman, and then they also add Tyrone Taylor for a little bit of offensive help. I think they've made all the right moves to get better and strengthen their position for a home wild card series in the playoffs. So I got them at number 5. And number 4, I got the Atlanta Braves. They've been good all season, leading their division, the NL East. That divisional lead is now 7.5 games now. And this was a team, like I said, they didn't go out and reinvent the wheel necessarily because they were already a pretty solid team, getting some people back from injury. But they made some nice moves at the deadline. Nothing that's going to make like crazy big headlines, but I think they were solid. I don't think it's going to be a deadline like they had in 2021. Eddie Rosario, Jock Peterson, and then those additions helping them win a World Series. But this team was already good. The deadline definitely didn't make them worse, and I wasn't unhappy with their moves. So I got them staying at 4. Number 3, I got the Chicago White Sox. This team is amazing at home. Their offense is healthy now, and they brought in Brazoban and Luis Castillo. I mean, this team is putting plugs in the leaks of their weaknesses that they got and just feel strengthened and ready to go for the playoffs. They got a 3-game divisional lead over the Cleveland Guardians at the time of me writing and prepping for this. It is still 3 games as of right now. I like where the White Sox are at. I think I called them a winner at the deadline. They're trying to strengthen their position in this American League pennant race, not just a wild card, not just a division, in the pennant race. And I think they're my favorite to win the AL potentially. I think right now I'd pick the Chicago White Sox just also because of how good they are at home. At number 2, I got the Brewers. They would have been number 1 if they would have just picked up a solid number 2 starter like Freddie Peralta, Tarik Skubal, Casey Mize. Like if they would have done that, they would have been 2. They lost to the Pirates tonight, but they've just been losing to the Pirates all season. I think they're 1-6 against the Pirates this season, so they haven't. That's just been their Achilles heel. But against everyone else, they've been absolutely amazing. I would have said, like I said, they landed that big number 2 starter, that I would now favor them to win the NLCS over the Dodgers. But I don't believe that to be true because at number 1, I do have the Dodgers. They landed Tarik Skubal. They have Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Kyle Tucker, Tarik Skubal, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Roki Sasaki, Andy Pages, Max Muncy, Mookie Betts, Will Smith, and a million other players on their team. I mean, it's hard to say the Dodgers aren't the best team in baseball. I'd be a fool for trying to make a case to anyone else given the state of the league right now. But like I said, the Brewers had a chance to do it. But the Dodgers are also on a losing streak, though. They're down 10-5 to the Cubs right now. They just got swept by the Red Sox, the losers of their last 3. But they still have a 10-game lead in their division, and they still have the best record in all of Major League Baseball. So how bad can it really be? So running that top 10 back for you, my honorable mentions were the Pirates, Guardians, Diamondbacks, Astros, and Nationals in no particular order. At 10th, I had the Padres. 9th, I had the Phillies. 8th, I had the Yankees. 7th, I had the Red Sox. At 6th, I had the Rays. At 5, I had the Cubs. At 4, I had the Braves. At 3, I had the White Sox. At 2, I had the Brewers. And at 1, lonely at the top, the Los Angeles Dodgers. So that's it. That's all I got for you guys today. It was a whole lot of baseball coming at you 24/7 today. And if you're a baseball fan, I really hope you liked and enjoyed this episode. Got 205 of you still watching with me right now that braved the storm, made it through all the baseball content. Like I said, this is the first time that one episode has been entirely about one sport. So a lot of you tended to seem to like it, got some good engagement. Shout out to my other ETB network guys, Callan and Ben, commenting, sharing the love. You can catch me with Ben and then David and Ryan too. You got us on Hitting for the Cycle. this Thursday and every Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch me on Unnecessary Wagers as well with my co-host Connor Rowland, Fridays at 5 p.m. It's been a while since me and him had been on an episode together, over a month now. But this week it's finally looking like we'll both be available. Be available at the time slot to make that episode happen together. So looking forward to that. Should be a good time. And, if you like me and the content I put out, follow me at Givin Takes. You see the ticker down below. Follow me at I'm Nate Miller on Instagram. And yeah, I know I'm extremely excited for the rest of this baseball season. I hope you are too, because when you tune into this show, you best know that I'm going to be talking a lot about baseball. So with all that being said, I'd just once again like to thank you all for watching and say that, as always, I've been Nate Miller, and those were my takes.